What's up? I'm Sarah the Rebel.
And I'm Tamara Brooks, aka Misfits Tamara.
And this is Women Wrestling Friends. This is a podcast where I talk about wrestling with my gal pals. And today's episode is all about a bunch of gal pals because we are doing a special review of Glow, the new series from Netflix. And this show, because it is a special episode, is sponsored by thefanspodcast.com. Please give them a visit and also give them a follow on the Fans Podcast. Like fan, like we need a fan in here because it's hot.
The
Fans
Podcast.
You got it. So for anyone who's been living under a rock, let's tell them what Glow is about.
Well, Glow is a new Netflix series that is based on, loosely based on the story of this women's wrestling show that happened in the late 80s, also titled Glow.
Which is very confusing.
Extremely, apparently.
Yeah, because there's Glow, the actual show from the 80s,
right, and then
there's Glow, the Netflix series, and there's Glow, the documentary.
Yeah, so it's... But look for Allison Brie. Because
she will guide you.
She will guide you. So she's one of the stars. She stars as Ruth Wilder. So she's an out-of-work actress living in LA who gets this opening call for a unconventional acting project.
That is not porn.
That is not porn.
She was excited to find out.
Specifically. That turns out to be Glow. And Mark Maron.
I will call him a moron. Oh, sorry.
It's every time when I look at his name, I always want to say it wrong.
But when
it's
spelled all...
Yeah.
That's like mayonnaise. I read it from the jar and I'm like, mayonnaise.
Yeah.
It's definitely mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise. Mark Mayonnaise.
Mark Mayonnaise. Yeah. He's in the show. Trust us.
He plays Sam, who is the director, Sam Sylvia, who is a washed-up director of sort of deep, schlocky kind of 70s films.
Yeah, blood and shit.
But have greater meaning. And so he's basically going to try and lead everyone to fortune and fame.
Right. And the series was created by Carly Minch and Liz Flaheeve. No, Flaheeve? Wow, these people gotta have crazy ass names.
Flav.
And the executive producers, Genji Cohan and Tara Herman. Now, we're going to talk about that a little more, but there you go. You have the setup, the basic premise. What we're going to do now is we're going to give you our overall thoughts on the show.
Yes.
And then we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive through each of the episodes and then have some final thoughts for you guys. So put on your spandex and glitter and let's just take a leap off the turnbuckle. First and foremost, before we say anything else, we are both so happy that this show is made.
Absolutely. It's a lot of women behind the scenes, a lot of women directors on, I think almost all women directors.
Yeah, it was definitely majority.
Definitely majority, mostly women writers, so that's really cool because it's a story about women and their struggles during this period piece.
Right.
And it's also based on Glow, which, every once in a while kind of gets pushed back a little bit into pop culture, but now it's like really there.
Right. So Glow, again, was a wrestling show, all women. And it's kind of not really shown in this show that much until the last episode, but Tamara, you grew up watching it.
I did. As a kid, it came on, I think, like after cartoons or whatever, because it was syndicated, so it came on random times depending on where you lived. So after the last cartoon came on, the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling came on, and they were there rapping their intro, and we were like, tell me more of this. So we were,
I'm intrigued. Go on.
So it was really kind of interesting for me too, because I kind of figured out who was who based on who, because I remember from when I was a kid, because I have a memory like that.
So when you were watching the show as a kid, how would you have described the show? Like, what did you like about Glow?
I liked that it was, clearly all women, and because they were, they were doing wrestling moves and being powerful and things like that. I did notice as a kid, is a little stereotypical, but...
What do we mean by stereotypical? We mean, like, if you were Middle Eastern looking, you were playing a terrorist. If you were a black woman, you were playing some blaxploitation mess, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so that, and even like the white people the white women had those things too. It was like Susie the Farmer's Daughter and the cheerleaders, and Susie Farmer's Daughter was real dumb. It was basically like a hee-haw thing, like her whole deal. So it was like a lot of like kind of vague stereotypes. Like one of the Italian girls was Tina Ferrari, like it was all very, but it's like wrestling, like 80s wrestling, or kind of wrestling now. There is some
wrestling
of that
does rely on stereotypes.
Yeah, they're shortcuts. And so, but a lot seeing that it was all women doing these matches, I wouldn't have to, like, because I watched regular wrestling too, and there are times where you would never see a women's match at all. I don't remember seeing them that much as a kid.
Right.
And most of the time the women were the valets, so they didn't get to do that much except for like interfere with matches. So being able to see them actually wrestle, and then Glow did hit a popularity point where they were then going into other series. So there would be like sitcoms where some of the
right, like I think what's that one with Al Bundy?
Oh, Married with Children.
Married with Children.
Yeah, there's Married with Children. They were on like Hollywood Square, like stuff like that. Like, so they really did become a cultural phenomenon at one point. So it was really, like, I was really excited to see kind of what they would do on this, because I know there was a lot of drama in the backstage area, but just being able to see kind of at least a dramatization of that whole journey, it was really interesting to me.
So I've actually recently went to a show that is sort of the modern torchbearer of Glow, Wow Women of Wrestling. This will be up on my YouTube channel as well. If you go in my YouTube channel and look for a video, I did some clips. They even have the rapping still at the beginning of the show. And it's all women, and they're these larger-than-life characters and a lot of stereotypes. And it was a great show. And it was very different for me because I didn't grow up with Glow. I was a little too young. And I grew up in the era where you, like you said, had to search and hope and pray for the women wrestling matches. And then now I get to at least have 2 a week. You could do better, WWE, but it's fine. So going to the...
3 hours of broadcasting.
Just saying.
Anyways,
got all that time.
So much time.
So going to the WoW Women of Wrestling show was really fun for me because I just got to watch women being badasses. I ran into my favorite gimmick of all time. It's this lady dressed as a lawyer. She's a manager, and her gimmick is she's the greatest lawyer of all time. And she's this Latina woman, and she plays that shit so perfectly that I'm like, I want to hire this woman as my lawyer. And it was so beautiful to me to get to see that because I wouldn't see it anywhere else. So, bottom line for all of this is you should, if you can, go back and watch Glow. Definitely watch the Glow documentary. And if you can support WoW Women of Wrestling, or Chikara, or Shimmer Wrestling, go to shows that are AWS a few weeks ago did an all-women wrestling match. It was so great. Anytime you can support women's wrestling, please do. It's good.
Very good.
It's very good.
Yeah.
What's her name
Zoya.
again? Zoya the
Zoya.
Destroyer. I keep being like Vanya the Vaganya. I don't know. That's not her.
No.
So, first and foremost, let's talk about the bits and pieces that make a show great. Sound design, costuming, all this sort of thing. So, the thing that I noticed was the costumes were very time accurate for the 80s.
Yes.
Makeup, hair, all that looked great.
Yeah, the high weight, the waistedness
Some
of the
granny
jeans
panties too.
and the yeah, like everything was very much like, yes, this is the 80s. This is, and not like that sort of glamorized or like, just no. This was like straight up, like weird triangle bras, like the whole nine. Good hair, good makeup when there was makeup.
The lighting was also great. Helped kind of show that off.
Yeah, even down to like the cars and the way that they were like, like they had a range of vaguely modern mid 80s and then like them 70s hoopties. Like it just was a good, just everything was real good about that. I also appreciated, basic acting stuff. Everybody on the show is a great actor, so you don't really have to worry about like cringing through a scene for the acting. The directing was solid too. Like I didn't really have any problems with the directing.
There were some moments where I wish the directing had been a little more up close and personal, kind of more in the wrestling style, but nothing too big. Sound was great. I do think they chose some pretty stereotypical songs most of the time though.
Yeah.
The only two that got me hype were, in one of the episodes, there was we'll talk about it more, but when the punk girl gets her moment, they played some punk music.
Yeah.
And then the very last episode, they played Pat Benatar. Yeah. Who I think is perfect for a finale battle between women, by the way.
True. Pat Benatar is perfect for any occasion.
We're running with the shadows of the night. Okay, hello.
So it's okay. Sometimes the
comes out. Pat Benatar just...
So I think that I like the music overall. It would be interesting to see what an entire playlist would look like from it. So like any of the alternates per an episode or things like that to see how that would have worked. But I think it was a good mix of unconventional choices and hits that you would expect to be in the show.
From the
So
80s.
so I appreciated, the soundtrack. Yeah, I like a good 80s song.
Me too.
Yeah.
So now that we've said all these wonderful things about the show, let's answer the question that's been on your mind. Everyone else loves this show. Do we love this show? Survey says, no. We didn't like the show.
I didn't hate it. Okay, so this is...
I hated it.
So this is the thing. I was expecting much more of the journey of the physicality of the wrestling, and this was like straight up a character study, which I don't have a problem with character studies. It just wasn't, the balance wasn't there for me.
Yeah.
And usually when you do character studies, a lot of it they have challenging characters, so basically, which basically means unlikable.
Like Ruth, who I don't like.
Yeah, it was really hard to rally behind Ruth, and they gave her some moments where she was kind of pulling through, but largely she was vaguely self-absorbed, and so it
Vaguely?
Well,
Incredibly self-absorbed, narcissistic. I'm gonna talk more about it when it's my turn. My bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So it was hard to get behind her, and then Debbie.
Yeah, Debbie.
She also got to be unlikable, and then Melrose, I expected her to get her ass beat a couple of times. That did not happen. And even towards the end where she was less terrible, you never got to see the turn that made her less terrible.
This show definitely lacked payoffs. It had ideas, it would float them past you, but it didn't feel like it committed to a lot.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was the formatting, because they're not quite hour-longs. Like, hour-longs are usually like 45 minutes. These were like 38 or something like that. So it's a little bit longer than a standard sitcom runtime, but shorter than an actual like drama. So it's like this weird in-between period. Maybe that's kind of what led to the pacing issues and to some threads that they maybe dropped because they didn't have time for it.
It was just like, what was supposed to happen with this? I was watching it and I was like, why do I hate this?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I hate everything about it? And I realized as I was watching it, I was like, this feels like they took the idea that wrestling is about a soap opera, and they decided to make a show that was a soap opera, but not good enough to be a soap opera. And I don't mean not good enough like it was a bad show. I mean, like, they didn't commit. Again, I feel like this show had a problem with commitment. They didn't commit fully to a soap opera. It was still more of a character study. It was also an 80s movie. And I feel like, to me, the vibe I got was this was not written by people who love wrestling. It didn't feel to me that this was a show concocted by people who love to watch wrestling, because it was missing the wrestling aspect of it. It felt more like, hey, this is such a cool idea and I want to get to know the women behind this. Yeah. Okay, well, I didn't. You showed me advertisements full of women in spandex with glitter on their eyes and cool neon lighting. And go back and look at every poster, every ad, all of the gifts. They made this show look like it was gonna be something that it wasn't.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I think, and I get what they were doing thematically, from not so much wrestling and a lot of character stuff to kind of taking it the opposite, where the final episode was mostly wrestling, because it's this character journey thing, and then so like I get it, but I also feel like it would have been much better if they took a lot of the issues that they were exploring outside of the ring and found a physical way of doing it. So Ruth feeling like she's a failure, not just because of the character acting part, because they really got into that. Like, oh, I can't find a character. I don't know myself, blah, 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 blah. Could you at least show her also, like, failing at doing some, like, pull-ups on those like, parallel bars? Because, like, the rings, like, there's one point.
That was hella impressive.
Yeah, there's one, I think it's, like, the 6th episode or something, where Alison Brie is doing those pull-ups. I'm like, oh, that shit is hard. You know how hard that is?
I'm training as a wrestler, and I can't do 3 of those.
It's hard.
Fun facts.
Yeah. So to me, it's like I'm seeing glimpses of the fact that these women really did train and really did get all this stuff out, and I wasn't getting to see that on screen, and I felt a little cheated.
I did too.
So I just...
And I watched the documentary, and they showed more of it in the documentary, and the documentary somehow managed to have more of the glitz and glam that I wanted to see, you know, the way the lights would shine and everything, and that's a documentary, so that's kind of weird. I guess I just don't get the focus on Sam Sylvia, the main guy character, so much about the show was seen through the lens of how it interacted with him, and him and his struggles with his sadness and his loneliness and his wanting to have sex and him being an asshole. And moments in the show that I felt would have been better served by being between the women would be between him and the women. Him and Rhonda, him and Justine, I think her name was, him and Ruth, him and Debbie. It was so him and what was her name? Cherry. It was so much him to them. Yeah. And in a show with an ensemble cast of interesting women, you really could have spent more time on them. And we'll talk more in specific episodes where I saw that happen. I do want to address the fact that so many people love this show. So many. I mean, people I've never seen talk about wrestling before.
And I love that.
Right. Yeah. I absolutely love that. Yeah. I love to see so many women talking about wrestling, being interested in wrestling. A bunch of friends who've never talked to me about going to Raw suddenly went to Raw this Monday. I think that was yesterday. I don't know when this is going up. Day before yesterday. But these are also my friends who do improv and who do acting. And I think what we had here was a show that was more about struggling in Hollywood and struggling as a young adult trying to make it in a creative profession than it was about struggling to be a wrestler. And you could, because you had Ruth who's like going to her scene classes and quoting plays and nobody getting her because she's quirky and weird, and she's one of those acting type that I went to college with because I used to be a theater major, and that's when I realized I could not be a theater major because I hated all them fuckers. Whereas I wanted to watch a show that reflected me, right? At least a little bit. Like, yes, somebody wanting to be a wrestler. Yeah.
I mean, I understand thematically what they were doing with it, but it was to not, like, I think Cherry was one of the few who were super keyed in to it.
And Debbie, actually,
and Debbie,
eventually.
That's true.
Once Debbie got in, she said, you know what? I like wrestling. Yeah. That was more what I wanted. Someone who did it and was like, I love this. I don't want to stop.
The whole speech about her being more into her body and about that sort of empowerment thing of it, that was really cool. I wish there was more of that with the other people. And also Cherry and her husband, who are just this really great couple, and I really liked them, and I wanted to see more of them. I liked all the minor characters more and wanted to see them more than I wanted
Beirut?
to see.
And her grandma who watches wrestling, I'm so glad they put that in there.
Yeah.
There were things that were exciting to see in there. The different wrestlers who made cameos, including some indie wrestlers. Yeah. The grandma who loves wrestling, because I think a lot of us relate to that. A lot of people have shared that story. The fact that it's a soap opera, when that really clicks for Debbie. Yeah. Those things, it was great to see, but I wanted to see more.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
You wanted to talk about the lack of balance too, I think.
Yeah, there was if you have, I know that you only have so many episodes, right? But you have this ensemble cast of actors who are doing really great work, who you may not have been known that could do that kind of acting. Like Tammy is played by you might recognize her as Awesome Kong. Did you know that was Awesome Kong?
Did you recognize her? Because I did not. I did not recognize her.
You throw that 80s wig on her,
and suddenly it's a mom, and not. Yeah. But I noticed how good she got into the ring. I said out loud, I was like, that woman can really move. Like, she moves like she's a wrestler. And then Kat pulled it up and was like, that's Awesome Kong. And I was like, shut up. No, it's not.
Is all that makeup in business? Yeah.
You might know her as Karma. Yes, well. That was her name in WWE.
So I wanted to see more of Tammy's character, which they mentioned that she had a son and then did not bring it up again. Cherry got more play. I was expecting her to get faded in the background a little bit more than she did, so that's nice. But there's. Their relationship was nice, and I wanted to see more of it. That's interesting.
She was kind of just the slightly untouchable, because they brought up the miscarriage thing, right? And then they kind of just let it.
Yeah.
Never brought it up again. There was no vengeance for her. Here's the thing about wrestling. One of the things about wrestling that makes it so great is comeuppance. You build and you build and you build, and then there is a comeuppance of some sort. And a lot of this show was build without comeuppance. And when he calls it the baby goof, and when that other girl gets away with doing that thing with the ketchup bottle, there should have eventually been a comeuppance for Cherry. And if that was that at the very, very, very end, she got, the role that she did, then that should have been an unequivocal, yes, I'm doing this, versus what they had it be.
Because again, we are missing that point where, because obviously there was a point that Melrose and Cherry got cool, but where was it?
Right. She put her to sleep, which is cool. That's something that actually happened with, I can never remember his first name, one of the Guerreros. Was it Mongol? Manny? Oh god, this makes me sound terrible. But the Guerrero family, somebody from the Guerrero family is who originally, they just popping off fireworks. So you're going to hear that in the background. Welcome to Los Angeles. And the girls were messing around, and so he had to put one of them in a sleeper hold. And so they did that, and they had Cherry do the sleeper hold. But then afterwards, Melrose wasn't like, oh, I have been taught my lesson. She was like, I'm going to sue. And then there was still no...
Worse than usual. There was no...
And then she did that whole thing. Yeah. So it wasn't a comeuppance. It was weird.
Not at all. It was very... Yeah. Was it too realistic? Is that the problem? Was it too grounded?
I think so. I think you're right. Yeah. Because so much of it was just like, oh, in real life, there are no good people. And in real life, there are no... Sometimes you just don't know the answer. Why did she cheat with her best friend's husband? You never really get an answer, right? So I get the idea of wanting to be realistic. Was this the show to do that with?
I don't know. Like, if you just gave me a character study that was set in the 80s without the wrestling background, I probably would have enjoyed it more. Like, it was like, if you, like, Melrose placed it and you put them all in a freaking apartment complex or something, like, you would have figured out any other way to connect them other than wrestling. Would I have liked it better? Maybe. Again, it's that balance and the expectations that I had going into it. And I think if I had known more that was like, okay, this is a character study that has increasingly more wrestling as it goes on, then I probably would have had a different expectation. Maybe would have liked it a lot better.
I probably wouldn't have watched it. Again, the ads, the commercials, everything made me think I was going to get basically the superhero show version, but for wrestlers, right? Like, it was going to have some drama and fighting. It was going to have fighting. It was going to have training. And I don't really care about so-and-so sleeping with so-and-so, or, I don't know, the pizza boy and the angst of being a teenage punk back in the day. Like, make that the dressing of the fights, and then I'm there, like with wrestling. But otherwise, this is not the type of television that I choose to watch normally. Yeah. Right? Like, I don't normally choose to watch a show that's just about people.
Yeah, just dramas with no, like, dragons and magic.
Right, thank you. I like dragons and magic, outer space. Those are the things I like. So, I was really hoping for more wrestling here. And one last thing that we felt could have been more balanced is the titties. Let's talk about nudity. There's nudity in the show. And the very first episode is nudity, in which Ruth takes off her shirt and boom, titties. Now, it's really funny. So Cap was watching this with me, and he's a really big fan of her from Community. And he's like, man, I've always wanted to see her naked, but not like this. And he was like, she had to lose all this weight for this role, and it just seemed like, why did they do that? Why did they make her take her shirt off there? So it was really interesting that was his viewpoint from watching it was, I don't feel like that was necessary. Now, you had another viewpoint.
It also kind of wasn't necessary, but I feel like what they were doing was, again, we go back to that realism and the the capital letter, real people doing real stuff, TM. It's a thing that a lot of dramas do where they use something that you don't necessarily see in movies that real people do, like getting changed in a gym. And so, she's changing her shirt, because that's what you do after you work out. You change your clothes because you're sweaty and you're gross. And so there was, I think part of what Cap was responding to was the lack of male gaze to that scene. It was just like, hey, she's just taking off her top and changing, because that's what you do. There was no titillation, to it at all. There was no, it was just her being a normal person doing stuff. Even, and there's a sex scene later, and,
I guess for me, that's not been my experience ever in my life. Have I been in a gym room and seen a girl take her top off and show her titties? Never. Even in PE class, I remember all the girls would turn face away and do their shit, or go into one of the rooms. I don't get topless in a thing. The one time it happened around me was a lady trying to titillate me. So maybe it was just because it's not in my experience. It seemed weird to me. I was just like, oh, your friend just said that you're not brave enough to take off your shirt, but instead of turning towards her and being like, and taking off your shirt, or having the friend look and be like, oh, okay. There was no, again,
there was a disconnect there.
Yes.
But, so it was the real people doing real stuff, TM. And then there was also, I feel like I don't know if I want to say it was as strong as a statement, but it was a conscious effort to be because it's about women doing a thing that women aren't supposed to do. It was specifically a statement of non-sexualized female nudity. So I think it was kind of a combo of that because, again, most of these directors are women. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, and I don't know whether that was Alison Brie's choice to do that. I don't know whether that was a director's note. I don't know where that originated from, but it feels like it had a vague, a subconscious purpose, if not an overt one. Because even like, because I mentioned before, there's a sex scene later on so Alison Brie is naked in that thing too, but even that sex scene wasn't particularly sexualized.
I loved it. It was just her humping a dude with a small to medium dick. You could tell by the way her hips were moving. Look, I'm demonstrating for you. And then shushing him. Shush.
Yes.
Shush. Why are you talking? I'm trying to have an orgasm.
But again,
so relatable.
That is a real people doing real stuff, TM.
But to me, that told a story.
Yes, absolutely.
It was the story of this is for her.
Yes.
She doesn't find him dreadfully oh, I need you. It wasn't about him at all. It was about she needed something.
Yeah. So that's
get her rocks off.
A tale of two titties, if you will. Because
I want to give an example of how a scene where I thought this was done better.
Yes.
The tampon scene. Mm-hmm. In one of the episodes going now, we'll talk about it more, but there's a scene where it's all the women in the locker room, and they're waving around tampons, and Beirut is nervous about everyone getting toxic shock syndrome, which is a thing I too fear in my life. I am diligent about taking them tampons out on time because I don't want to die that way. Anyway, so it was this kind of talk, haha, period. And it could have been one of those, haha, we're women, so we're talking about blood, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it could have not mattered. It could have just been a thing to be girls.
Throwaway.
Right.
Yeah.
But instead, that scene set up the fact that, oh shit, Ruth is not on her period right now. Fuck is going on? Mm-hmm. I love that. I think that's, if you're going to do something weird or different or real people doing real things, I just want to see a payoff. Again, like I said, taking her top off, her friend being all right, fuck it, I was wrong. Riding the dick had a bit more of a payoff because it was there's a purpose and again there's a clear motivation, there's a clear behavior during it, and there's a clear I do get mad at sex scenes where the woman keeps her bra on during sex because I'm the bra is the most uncomfortable clothing item we all own.
Not fun.
Any excuse to take a bra off is usually immediately enacted. God, let me out. I'm more likely to wear a shirt and not a bra than to just be I'm real sexy riding this with a bra on. So I appreciated that. Anyway, we got off track. Now we're going to talk a little more about each episode, just super briefly, some thoughts and some things we think they did well or could have done better. And we're going to start off with the appropriately named pilot.
Mm-hmm. It set up things fine. I'm trying to think if there's anything specific that stood out for me. I think the favorite part, which most people's favorite part is when there's the confrontation
between Debbie and Ruth.
And Tammy goes and be you want me to hold that baby? And I was because she knew what was going on. She's oh, let me hold this baby. See.
Want me to hold her while you beat her skinny ass? That's essentially what she was saying.
Yes.
I loved that moment.
That was good. Because it was kind of real, too. Because, I'd be this is...
Let me just take this baby out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
I love that she came with the baby, too.
Yeah.
She knew she wanted to choke a bitch out, but also, what's she going to do with the baby?
She's a responsible mother.
She was she was like Bulma, showing up at the battlefield with baby Trunks.
With baby Trunks. Somebody hold baby Trunks while
hold baby Trunks while I slap the fire out of you. I liked how that was built.
Yes.
First the guy, she's go back to your family, and then the keychain moment, the talks about how they don't hang out as much anymore, and then ending with her being you fucking bitch. I liked that payoff. I liked the lead up. Was good.
Yes.
Apparently what happened in the audition was accurate to true life. They say that the guy was we're about to make a pro wrestling show, and a third of the women got up and left. That was interesting.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have just still seen more. Actually, I know we can't reveal the secrets of wrestling, right? But you could pick one move and reveal that move. Clothesline. Let me teach you how to properly do a clothesline.
Even if it wasn't the wrestling aspects of it, the physical training stuff, because there's parts where they're doing crunches with medicine balls.
Mm-hmm.
Just the stuff that you have to do to train your body to be able to do that stuff is interesting also.
Squats. Sorry, I'm training right now for anyone who doesn't normally watch our show. And we do 300 squats every day and 200 push-ups and we run a mile, and it's just a lot, you know? So, yeah, like you said, showing more of that. Give me a little montage.
Mm-hmm. It's a montage. And what's more 80s than a montage?
Nothing. Nothing in existence. This is also the episode where we got to see each little weirdo.
Yes.
And already get excited. So that, you know, it all worked out. I think for what it was, the pilot was good. It was still very, like, active. Like, the scene where she goes into the bathroom to talk to her agent. I literally walked out of the room and told Aaron to tell me when it was done. Because I got so embarrassed.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing that it's so cringy. I think that's another reason why I have a problem watching it. I have a problem with things that are based in embarrassment because I feel too much sympathy for the people. Mm-hmm. So even, like, in Back to the Future where he starts, like wilding out during, you know, the Johnny Be Good at the prom, I'm always like, oh.
Yeah. No, I didn't even know we had that in common. I'm the exact same way. It's I actually don't like romantic comedies.
Yeah,
because
embarrassment.
Right. Yeah. I get so embarrassed. I get embarrassed watching someone else get embarrassed.
Mm-hmm. It's like, it hurt. It's like, I feel it.
Yes.
I feel it all up in here.
Yes. And so when she was in the bathroom, like, I'm going to sneak out of here and confront this woman in the bathroom, I had to leave the room. I found out what happened, but I couldn't watch that shit. I was like, I'm so upset. Why would you do this?
One of the less cringy parts.
I know, like, later on through the show.
You're like, oh no, it gets worse.
Way worse stuff.
Way more cringy.
I don't like cringe. You know, I think there's other ways to do what they're trying to do. Again, if you're just tuning in, lots of fireworks because it's fireworks season in Los Angeles.
It is. It's like a whole month and a half.
It's a season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The second episode, Slouch Submit. And it was basically about the fact that Ruth needed to... Well, that was the line that Sheila, the wolf, said to Ruth because Debbie is the alpha of the wolf pack.
Yep.
It didn't work too well. So this is the episode in which Cherry had to deal with a miscarriage prank from Melrose.
Yes, I was waiting for her to throw his hands. I know that she established dominance by, like, you know, choking her out, and it did go down as fast as it usually does. By the way, like actually choking somebody out, if you do it right, it's like 4 seconds. Don't ask me how I know this. I've never done it, and I've never received it, but I've witnessed it. So that was kind of good. But again, like she was a jerk enough where she should have caught a few hands, maybe not all the hands. But like 2-3 hands.
Comeuppance was needed.
Yes.
We needed some sort of resolution to Cherry not getting what she wanted or deserved.
Yeah, I mean, because she had the verbal dressing down of her basically being like, you drive that limo because you want people to think you're interesting and da-da-da-da, and totally just like exposing her essentially life. And that was vaguely satisfying, but it still wasn't enough because that's terrible.
What you usually want after that is for Melrose to do something like, oh, here, Cherry, and, like, give her something that she dropped. Or, you know, like, there's usually something done afterwards to show that the lesson stuck, and now I'm going to be better.
Yeah.
But it's real life shit, so nobody's really better, and people are still terrible. Okay, but for a show, I want a little bit of payoff. In wrestling, there would have been payoff in that. Mm-hmm. And then this was also the episode where Sam spent a bunch of time trying to convince Debbie to come be on the show.
Yeah.
The next episode was Wrath of Kuntar.
Kuntar, not Kuntar.
Kuntar. It's very important that you know that it's Kuntar.
Yeah, that was episode 3. They basically this is where we meet the Bash, who is
short for Sebastian. I love that.
Yes, who is the bankroller of this whole situation, and Sam had written this whole elaborate script for the series. Which
sounded kind of intriguing, like shitty.
Yeah.
Because it was written by a man and it was a little sexist, but also kind of intriguing.
Yeah, like it's like it was set up as these women wrestle each other with the winner being able to win a night with like the only man left in the
right.
It was a whole. It
would have been an '80s movie that I would have really enjoyed.
Yeah, I probably would have watched it. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, back in the day when we couldn't be choosy and we didn't get Wonder Woman movies.
Yes,
I would have watched this just for the badass women moments.
Yeah, you would cringe at the parts, but then you'd be like, oh, but they're fighting.
But they're fighting and they get to look cool.
Yes.
So Bash comes in. He's like, "This is not what I wanted.
Nope.
Let's go have a party with a drug robot."
Yes, as a robot with drugs.
Hola. And then so there was drugs done. There was this argument, and he did something that really made me laugh, which is he opened a costume closet for them.
Yes.
And they're all squealing, and people think that crazy feminist ladies like myself are, like, anti-feminine things, but, like, I gotta tell you, my heart also goes pitter-patter when I see a goddamn costume closet open up. Like, bitches love costumes. That's more exciting than anything else.
Sparkly dress-up accoutrement. We like fake furs.
That fur coat, yep.
We like
the space helmet.
Space helmets. We like the horned helmets.
Mm-hmm.
Just all of it. Can we costumes?
Bitches love costumes.
We do love,
Fun fact. So that was really cool. I loved the moments in the show when we got to see the girls have fun.
Yeah, I think so. Like it's so serious so much that like just being able to see the bonding. We were kind of mentioning that before. Like female bonding is a thing that we don't get to see as much as I would like. Especially in big groups. Like one-on-one we kind of get there a lot, but like not like 12 women just like bonding and being, even if they're not like super close, like, like being like tight with each other, even if they're not friends,
Yes. And that it felt good to see. And so this was the episode where we saw them start to develop their character and finally get a direction for the show, which then became a theme for the whole rest of the show as the women developed their characters. So in the next episode, Dusty Spur is when Bash and Sam Sylvia go off and do a bunch of drugs and decide that the women should all live together in a hotel. Again, this also happened in real life, maybe without the drugs, but all the women were moved into the Riviera Hotel in Vegas. They were given strict rules, just like this. Curfew, don't go out being crazy and doing stuff. Except there were actually fines that they had to pay if they messed up. Versus in the show, they're not wrestling yet, so they just get in trouble. They don't have to pay fines. Ruth is moved in with Sheila the wolf, and we have to deal. Most of this episode focused on Sheila trying to explain that she is a wolf and it's not a costume. I think.
Yeah, it's her spirit. This is what she feels she is.
Again, this was one of those things that felt unnecessary to me. I run into this a lot in this series. I think the audience really got a sense already that was what was going on, and I don't think Ruth was made better for the conversation.
No, I think there's a lot of moments in which Ruth could grow, and you don't see that actually happening. So it's almost, and we also don't know exactly how much time has gone past at this point either. That's kind of a weird thing. So this could have been like months or weeks. We don't know. And so in that moment, they had like a bonding moment, but it wasn't.
But they didn't really, because then the wolf lady kicked her the fuck out and she slept in the pool.
Yep.
Like, it was.
It's a weird situation. It's a weird thing. Yeah. And again, I understand if you're going to be all realistic that, fast friendships don't necessarily happen, though that's not true, because it does happen.
We immediately, first day, my people. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
Debbie also ends up at this hotel. She doesn't have to stay there because she's a star, but that bitch-ass hoe Mark shows back up in her house and says, this is my house and I pay for it, so I'm living here again. How? Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to be a home wrecker. They keep calling Ruth the home wrecker. You know who the home wrecker is? The man that cheated on his wife. He could have cheated with anybody. And instead he chose to ruin a friendship.
Yep. Like, that to me is such a specific thing that we never got. I mean, you do get to see him be outed as being vaguely selfish and sort of sabotagey at the end. But, what dude goes after your best friend?
Yeah, especially dude, like Sam later said, looking like a cabbage patch. Just a lot about that was really weird. And then even, they had this, eventually, I don't know if it happens in this. No, it doesn't happen in this episode, so I'm going to save it. Remind me to talk about the dinner, because that also made me mad. Yeah. But anyway, so he comes back, says it's my house, and she strong woman's the fuck out of there, goes and stays in a motel. Also, of interesting note during this episode, this is the episode where Machu Picchu, I believe her name is Carmen. Yep. It's hard to remember everybody's name. Her dad, who is the world-famous wrestling superstar, I believe Goliath Jackson was the name.
I believe so, yes.
Comes in and's like, baby girl, get the fuck out of this ring. And the reasoning is that women's wrestling is like midget acts. That's literally a quote. And no one will respect you. You need to find a husband and have a better life. This is something that was said to women in both levels, right? So on the one hand, yes, women's wrestling was treated this way for a long time. Partially because of a woman. We can get into that sometime. But women wrestlers weren't really respected as true athletes. But number two, what he says about wanting a better life for you is there are a lot of wrestlers who had this conversation with their daughters. Mm-hmm. And as you can see from the current generation of women wrestlers, a lot of those daughters said, no, fuck you, I'm going to do it anyway. Mm-hmm. But they're still like Triple H and Stephanie straight up are like, we really hope our daughters don't want to wrestle. Yeah. You know, this is a thing when you're a wrestler, and it's not necessarily because of sexism that you're more willing to let the guys wrestle or whatever. From the parents, I think it's a societal sexism in that boys are gonna have these tough lives no matter what is, I guess, the concept. But women, you want to kind of try and protect them from these terrible things. And it's kind of a weird idea that you'd be more okay with like, you should kind of care about your son and not want him to wrestle too. Yeah,
I mean, especially during this time period of the 80s when safety precautions were a lot iffier and there was, a lot of self-medication to deal with your issues. Yeah, people would straight up die from stuff that they would do because it was like, oh, well, nobody taped down this mat right here, so he just like hit the pavement and is, like it's.
And if you guys think this sort of stuff didn't happen to the women of Glow, go back and watch that documentary. I saw a woman's whole elbow just leave, and they had to pick her tendon up off the floor. Mm-hmm. So, I really could have done without being shown that many times. Yeah, but hey, wrestling. So,
what you gonna do?
Yeah, they were apparently, their ring wasn't even set up properly. It's the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so to try and prevent this, Bash runs out with Carmen and makes out with her. And because he's like, I understand how families are shitty. Yeah. And then Goliath Jackson is all like, you need to learn to sell, walk, but relents. And because she's like, do you want me to leave like Mom did? And you're like, oh, there's a backstory there. We're never going to get to it because this show is about Debbie and Ruth and Sam. But okay, there's something there. And that's when we kind of see the first start of the bond between Bash and Carmen, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I did too. I thought they worked really well together. And I think that she's kind of the only one that he not cares about, but like has like
a connection.
Yeah, deeper feelings for than just like, hey, we're buddies.
It makes me wonder if because I think she's based on Mount Fiji to me. Definitely. There's a part of me that wonders if this is an homage to Mount Fiji's feelings for the director, and if they're like if this is some sort of, if the connection eventually becomes romantic or something, if this is like for Mount Fiji.
Maybe.
That'd
be nice.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool. Yeah. Episode 5. Oh, right when the firework goes off. Debbie does something. You know what Debbie does? She goes to see a wrestling show.
She does. She goes to see a wrestling show, and in this moment, she has an epiphany that wrestling is a soap. Mm-hmm. And it is.
It is. Absolutely.
There's betrayal. There's surprises. There's people being in secret comas and waking up with different faces. Not quite. Mm-hmm. But maybe.
Yes. But maybe.
Yeah. There's always like a mask reveal when it's somebody underneath
I love when it's saying he's just saying. Sorry, it's that joke if you actually watched wrestling. So I loved that it wasn't just, wrestling is a soap. It was wrestling is a soap and I know this. Yes. I know this in my blood. Yes. I was born to soap. Mm-hmm. Joey Ryan made a lovely cameo as well.
And Alex Riley.
Yeah, I don't remember that guy for the WWE. My bad. He's from the WWE. Yeah, he was from there. Yeah. I didn't really know him. I like that there was an empowering sex scene, followed by the immediate, instead of regret for like, oh, I wish I didn't have that random sex, was more like, isn't it funny how like if you have sex without feeling, sometimes it's just blah?
Yeah, it was kind of like, she's like, I've always thought about all the sex I could have if I wasn't with my husband, and now that I finally had it, I don't know how to feel about it, which is some real people shit.
And you know what else I like? Real people shit? Talking about the stinging pee afterwards. No one ever talks about it. These women will have crazy sex and they wake up and go about their day without being like, when I pee, this is going to be the worst moment of my life today. It stings. Anyway. And then it was also just a nice moment between
Debbie and Cherry.
Debbie and Cherry, yeah, because we got to see them interact. Mm-hmm. Again, I could use way more of these moments between the women and them having these discussions and interactions.
And preceding that was a lovely moment between Cherry and her husband. And I really like them. Again, must say, I like them.
Yes.
They were
good.
A pleasant spot.
When he showed up as the ref, I was like, yeah! yes, it's so good.
Yeah.
What else happened in this episode?
The patio store thing. Yeah.
Now, this was weird. So, Sam, for some reason, chose to take along Ruth, and he also took his main chick, Rhonda, the British one, and they went to go visit the guy they wanted to sponsor the show, Patio Guy. I don't remember his name. Now, Patio Guy was like, psh, I can't advertise in your show. A bunch of women wrestlers. Do you see the people who come here? It's women. They want to do this. They want to do that. And Sam's all like, look at all these men sitting here bored. Rhonda, do the thing. And I'm not joking. Rhonda just does this.
She takes her jacket down, wearing her little wrestling outfit.
Wiggles a little. Okay. Yeah. And then the patio guy nods. And the next thing we know, she's standing next to him while he's about to do the ribbon cutting. Okay, what?
I mean, like, yeah, okay. But also,
Then, to make it even more confusing, Ruth, in a trench coat, comes out of nowhere, pretending to be a Soviet Russian, doing that whole, in Soviet Russia, patio eat you, or whatever.
We wait in long lines, and how dare you have all these checkout counters and
right.
choices of 26 chairs. I'm like, what?
So the idea here is she's saying, look how great this patio place is, and she gets the crowd on their side. That's the idea.
Yeah.
But the action of it is just pretty strange because it just peters out. It just ends. Like, I was really expecting them, Rhonda, to step up and be like, how dare you, this is patio town and I'll defend its honor, and then, like, knock her out. That would have been, like, a conclusion. But instead it was just the main guy awkwardly laughing.
He's like, oh, okay, let's open this. And that was basically...
It was just so strange. It was really strange.
Yeah. Weirdly...
It almost felt like they left off at the very end, the printer cut out, and they missed the rest of the scene.
Yeah. It's like, okay, let's wrap it.
But hey, it worked. They got a sponsor. Congrats, everyone.
Woo, sponsor.
Next, episode 6. This is one of those moments. Oh, this was my least favorite episode.
Yeah, the struggle.
So Gregory, who's a deer, is the guy who runs the motel.
Who thinks they're all escorts.
Which is a fair assumption, right?
I mean, mid-80s, yeah.
Yeah. And he's basically the funny Russian stereotype that Ruth is making fun of. Well, she is like, I'm going to learn how to be a Russian authentically.
We should preface this by saying that she was rejected that morning.
That's right. This is important, yes.
So
Debbie was like, I need a heel.
Yeah, she needs a heel, and so super early, and Sam brings her in because she's Liberty Bell, the American hero, which she steals, by the way, from someone else who is an actual Olympian. So that's an important thing to see because Debbie's not that likable either. But then because it's Ruth, she doesn't want to do it.
Right.
And so now Ruth has the rest of the day to do what? To
do whatever she wants. And so what she wants to do is go hang out with Gregory at some Russian Jewish Orthodox celebration involving a circumcision. Anyway, real quick though, we did forget to mention that the main point of Debbie sleeping with somebody in the previous episode was for her not just to learn that it's a soap, but for her to learn that a good heel makes a good face.
Yes.
This is true in actual wrestling. The only reason you like a face is because of the heels that they deal with.
Very true.
So that's, that was a great point that they made, and something that
and showmanship as well.
Yes,
because in the main guy, his name is Steel Horse, and he rides in on a motorcycle.
Yes,
so it's like a whole thing.
Showmanship. She learns about the heels face. She learns about the soap part. She also learns that you don't have to be friends to make it work.
Yes.
That's also said, which is also true in wrestling. Although if you are friends, you put on some great matches like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. So anyway, she goes to a Russian party. And meanwhile, back at the gym, Debbie is trying everybody on for size as various heels that she can work with. I didn't feel that this was necessary in any way, shape, or form.
It was, I don't want to call it a throwaway episode, but it feels kind of like a throwaway episode. Because you could have done a lot of what they were doing in much less time.
Yes.
But instead we got a whole
Right, we
episode like this.
got a whole episode of her at a party, not learning from her mistakes, being cruel to everybody around her, impersonating people. The Russian people are not amused until the very end when she sings a song from Yendel. Again, this is a reference to those theater nerds. Because I've never... What is... Yendel?
Yentl.
Yentl? I've never seen it, never heard of it. I don't know nothing about no Barbra Streisand. Okay, I'm from this generation. And so this was some joke that went completely over my head, I guess. Because I could figure it out, right? This must be a play about Jewish people being sad. Barbra Streisand sang in it?
Yeah, it was a character she had to be in drag for a little bit and pretend she was a dude for a while, if I'm remembering correctly. I also have not seen Yentl.
I'm just saying, this was a deep cut joke
yeah.
in a not funny segment. It wasn't funny.
It was very cringy.
Yeah, it was just embarrassing. Like, she didn't do anything that made you like, ha ha ha! Like, there was... So if the point was that this was like a funny interlude, and then P.S., to highlight how much she did not learn a lesson, she comes back from that, and her new gimmick is an old Jewish lady saying terrible things.
Yeah.
Heightening her unlikability to new levels.
Yeah.
The other girls hate her at this point.
They're not fans.
Yeah, like...
I mean, they're looking at her kind of weird, and they accept that she's there, but it's tenuous trust.
And that moment when she walks in, you could see, like, to the point where I actually was like, Rhonda seems so uncomfortable. Is it going to be revealed that she's Jewish or of Russian ancestry? But it turned out that Rhonda was uncomfortable because she feels like Sam is falling in love with Ruth. Save that for another time. Yeah, so this was an episode that I felt really fell on its face.
Yeah.
Wrestling, a.k.a. going to Jew people party. There's a horse that shoots vodka out. Cool, this is so funny, guys. So funny.
And, like, I don't know if the point was so we could get to know Gregory better, but it also didn't exactly serve that purpose either.
And we didn't need to.
Because he spends the whole time beleaguered by Ruth and her and what he calls her dumb questions. Like, you say you want to do this character study, and you're just asking me these dumb questions. It's apparent, it's this hypocritical, self-serving thing that they're trying to mask, which she again never quite learns until later.
No comeuppance again, just like a poorly booked wrestling match. There was no solution to this conflict. And again, I don't think we needed any of this to get to know Gregory better. His little one-liners or silly things he says told me everything I needed to know about Gregory.
It's true.
My lady friend, she says I don't do the mouth pleasure enough. Got it. I get it. I get who Gregory is. Anyway, moving on from this terrible-ass episode to episode 7, live studio audience.
I appreciated this show. This particular episode, because it's a live show portion of it. Mm-hmm. So this is the first time that they're going to do a match in front of a live audience.
Yes.
Lots
of stuff happened. This was probably my second favorite episode.
Yeah.
We find out that when Machu Picchu tries their debut, she has a panic attack.
Mm-hmm. Can't do it.
Bash goes out to try and help her, which, again, we're seeing that connection with her and Bash. Mm-hmm. And then Bash admits that he's out of money.
He's been spending way too much.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Whoops. One of the best part is that, so Cherry and Tammy are put together as a tag team because they're black. And Cherry's character is Junk Chain?
Junk Chain, yeah.
Yeah, which is... and then...
Junk Chain and Welfare Queen.
And so they call an audible. A Cherry leads this calling of an audible.
Mm-hmm.
So they're supposed to be wrestling... the old
ladies.
The old biddies.
The old biddies.
I think that's what they're called, the battling biddies.
I can't remember what they're called. Something biddies.
Some biddies. So, this is basically a play off of the Housewives from the original Glow, which is basically the exact same shtick to a degree.
Yes.
And so they make call an audible so that they come out dressed like clan members. So they're in sheets. So
this is a great example of, again, what we love about wrestling, because this is the point where the audience really gets involved. Mm-hmm. More so than the other stereotypes, because what wrestling is trying to do, why it sticks to stereotypes and very simple storylines, is because you don't need to know this person from Joe down the street. You don't need to know anything about these people, but if you can visually cue them in on what's going on and what's at stake immediately, you've got your audience.
Yeah.
So immediately, we hate those fuckers at Ku Klux Klan. We love blaxploitation movies. Look at these badass women beating up the evildoer. Although nowadays, maybe the audience wouldn't react the same, America. Anyway, we won't get all into it, but I'm just saying this was an example of what really works in wrestling compared to some of the other stuff they did in the earlier matches.
Mm-hmm. And so that was really good. And then also leading up to this live match, Ruth and Debbie. So Debbie finally accepts that she should be partnered with Ruth. And then Cherry leads her through some combinations. And Debbie gets a little bit like pissy about it because it's not sensational. Like, she's like, I went to this one live wrestling thing and, you know, where's all the great stuff? And Cherry's like, this is stuff that you can actually do. So they then, with Carmen's help, go and train with their brothers to put up a whole
The Lumberjacksons.
The Lumberjacksons.
I love their names.
I know, it's so good.
I love this sequence.
Yeah.
This is what I wanted so much more. Two people trying to figure out how the fuck to train these people who've never wrestled before very quickly to wrestle. This was what I was expecting.
Yeah. While two people who are in a position in which one severely does not trust the other are learning to do these dangerous things that are very much reliant on the other person, you know.
That is something that a lot of people don't know about wrestling, and I will tell this secret to you. It is about trust. You have to trust the person you are wrestling with, because if you don't trust them, you get those times where we see somebody kick and they're nowhere near your face and you fly backwards, or you see somebody do a move that barely touches them because the other person pulled back at the last moment. When wrestling looks fake and not well done, it's because somebody doesn't trust the other person. So to make really great wrestling is you have to trust your opponent. So I love that they did this. I love that we got to watch that trust develop. And this was an episode where we got a payoff. We got to see them work for something and then achieve it. Yes. If this had been like other episodes, at the very end, she would have been like, oh, you know what? I don't feel like jumping at the last second. And we would have let like that.
I mean, yeah, that did kind of happen, but for a completely
different reason. Yes.
Because Debbie's stupid ass husband shows up.
And so she walks off. And I hated this. I hated that she got up on the ropes and didn't do it in front of that audience. Absolutely despised it. I get why they did it. But to me, this again was the example of the stuff that they normally do.
Yeah.
So I preferred it when she actually did the jump and we got the payoff. Yeah. But this one, oh, here's Mark being an asshole again and serving you divorce papers and ruining your life. Man, am I right?
Yeah.
And Ron has to save the day with a rap.
Yep. That they're all champions in the ring, except that's not their version, that's the real version.
It's fine. It was a touching.
Close enough.
We got some good stuff in this episode. We got the moment with Bash and Machu Picchu. We got, you know, everyone in the ring rapping and the live audience liking the show.
Yeah, they really like pulled it in at the end. So
right. And we got the Ku Klux scene, and we got Debbie and Ruth actually learning to wrestle. And I got the initial payoff.
Yes.
Fuck you for taking the second one away from me. Number 8.
Yes.
We're almost there. Maybe it's all the disco.
Maybe it's all the disco.
Is that a song?
No, but I can make it a song.
I was just wondering if this was a reference to something and I wasn't getting it. No. A lot of these titles...
I mean, there was a line that was said in there. So they're basically... when Ruth leaves the skating rink, she's saying, I'm not feeling that well. And then I can't remember who says it, but she says, maybe it's all the disco.
Completely missed that.
Yep.
This was another great episode. We got this... it was a birthday party, Sheila's birthday, and they worked hard to convince her to go roller skating, and then the payoff was they all roller skated and had a really great time.
Yeah.
It was her pack! Did you notice they were all behind her, and then she howls, and I was like, you found your pack of wolves!
And then she was so, resistant to being on the skates, and then she's just, everyone else is trying to have cake, and she's just skating still, really liking it, and
loving
I just liked it.
Being happy.
Being happy.
That was wonderful.
Bonding.
In the same episode, we had that period scene I talked about earlier, which had a purpose of revealing, hey, Ruth is not on her period. Oh, shit, she's pregnant with Mark's baby. Now, this is some soap opera shit, right? Except they didn't do the soap opera thing. Again, this is why I say, if it was trying to be a soap opera, it wasn't a good enough soap opera. If this was a soap opera, Debbie would have found out about it, right? Or, there would have been more angst or something. But instead, it was just kind of well, this is a problem, let me go handle it. I respect that. I'm happy that they showed abortion in that light.
Yes.
But it was also weird to me that the person she called upon to go with her was Sam.
Because Sam?
I guess it was supposed to tell something about Sam. Oh, Sam isn't as bad as you think he is. Sam has actually got something good going on in there. Also, maybe Sam and Ruth are really starting to bond. I don't give a fuck about Sam.
Yeah.
She can't trust any of those women?
Well, I think the real thing is she didn't want Debbie to find out. So, yeah. So she didn't trust anyone else.
She didn't
not to knock
trust
on her.
anyone.
Yep.
But this is what I'm saying. We've got a bunch of women in this show, and our main character can't trust any of them.
Yeah.
And you can't take Carmen because she's an innocent. We'll ruin her innocence if we take her to the abortion clinic. But you probably could have taken some other people. We could have had an interesting thing between the juxtaposition of a miscarriage and an abortion. Mm-hmm. We could have had that go on. We could have had this Melrose being the woman who's worldly and has been through a bunch of shit, taking her through it.
And that would have been a good turn of, we've seen them, kind of getting along with her more, or her mellowing out a little. So that could have been a good way of showing her being a little, and making her a little more real.
Right.
Because we never really got a scene of her being, a real person. It was always her being,
right.
jazz handsy.
Beirut is a medical student, as far as we can tell.
Yeah.
There were women who this could have been a moment between women. Mm-hmm. And it was, as usual in the show I've found, sacrifice for more Sam time. I didn't appreciate that. Anything else that was interesting about that? Oh, Rhonda and Sam have a breakup?
Yes. And Rhonda basically saying that she thought it would be fun, and he's too paranoid and in his head, which I'm sure a lot of us have had conversations like that.
And then him being like, wait, you actually liked me? Oh, funny thing, I forgot to mention. So the one of the things they said, Rhonda was like, he's going to get me a horse. And it's but that was actually a reference to the character that Rhonda is ripping off of, which is Godiva, who rode in on a horse.
Yep.
I loved it. Another little joke they made was about Bailey. They were like, what if hugging is your gimmick? So there were cute little inside jokes throughout the show.
If you look in the title credits where they have all the neon stuff, Bailey doing a belly to belly, the Bailey belly is actually one of the moves that are in the thing. Mm-hmm.
Her ponytail's there and everything.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Another joke there was she looks like a farmer's daughter, not a bow. The farmer's daughter is one of the names. So it's cute when they make those little moments. I think Rhonda and Sam breaking up felt good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I do have the sneaky suspicion that they did it because they want to set up a Sam and a Ruth thing. Mm-hmm. Also, we forgot to mention Justine stealing the camera, I think, back in episode 6. Sorry.
Yeah.
Justine, who at this time is basically a punk who loves Sam's movies and everything, gets upset because Rhonda is sleeping with him and then retaliates by stealing a camera, something a 19-year-old punk would do.
Stealing a camera and putting it in her locker.
In Rhonda's locker.
And framing her, basically.
It didn't work at all.
Nope.
Because Sam was like, hey, Rhonda, how'd you film this rap you just showed me? And she's like, oh, with the camera. And he's like, where was the camera? It's just a funny moment of him just not giving a shit. Mm-hmm. Being like,
why did you tell me for? I don't know. I found it in my locker. It was
she was like, I wanted to surprise you with this video. Duh. She's just
good. Yes.
He doesn't have any response. He's just Liberal Chokehold, episode 9. We are almost there. This is when they realize there's no money.
Yep.
And so they hold a car wash, which is, again, fun. I love to see the girls having fun and being silly. And then Mark shows up. I don't know if this is the episode where they have dinner.
I think this was the disco episode.
Where they had dinner?
Yeah, Debbie wasn't at the thing.
And Mark had dinner, and at some point... And Mark makes a salad. And Debbie calls him out on, is this you trying to show how helpless you are without a woman? And he's like, well, I'm on a diet. She's like, I've been on a diet since I was 14. And it was got your ass.
And he's recently started doing therapy because he wants to make the marriage work for reasons.
Here, do a therapy hug.
Oh, was the 7th episode where Beirut gets the stuff thrown at her? Or is
no, that is in the finale.
Is that the finale?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, during all this, Debbie is going through some stuff where they're trying to back up. Anyway, Bash talks to his mom, who is this fabulously frightening woman.
Yes, and this is on the Liberal Chokehold.
Yes.
Episode number 9. And so, she's so good.
So intimidating. And they basically crash the party and lie and say they're a bunch of crack addicts who have been reformed through wrestling. Mm-hmm. And Ruth actually tells her real story, which is that she slept with her friend's husband and blah, 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 and why she enjoys wrestling. And Bash's mom comes up and she's like, he's always told me he's been in love with wrestling. but you made me understand why someone could love wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I liked this little moment because that's what, our goal was on Ready to Ramble, the show I used to do that is still going on, and you can watch Tuesdays on Hyper RPG, just I'm not on that bitch, where the idea was to show people why. Not just say, oh, I love wrestling. Because some people, they're like, I don't get it. Well, it's just people, it's fake, it's this, it's that. There is a reason to love wrestling. And I'm happy that they touched on it in this way from a woman you wouldn't expect to understand. They get the funding that they need. And, also, Justine follows Sam, and maybe they're finally going to, give this stalker some pity sex. And, oh, shit, it's his daughter.
Oopsie.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh,
Stop over twist. Gross. So gross.
I just think of his mustache.
Filled with cocaine.
Just touching her lips, and I feel so
cocaine-filled mustache.
disgusted.
Filled with cocaine.
Okay. Anyway, so she runs away, as you do when your dad kisses you.
And also we should mention that when they found out all the money had run out, they decided to do a car wash. And that was interesting. Little segment. Everyone banding together because, so Ruth gives the let's put on a show in the barn kind of rallying speech of, some of the best ensembles I've ever been. We made our own props and da-da-da-da-da. So that was the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the finale episode, they're now trying to put this show together. And they're just scrambling, trying to make it work. Sam is missing because he's busy looking for his daughter, who has disappeared.
Well, he also spent a couple of days drinking a lot.
I feel like that's fair,
Yeah, he weirded himself out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because, as you do.
If I tried to accidentally make out with my child, I would also go on a 3-day binge. Yeah, and I'm not talking to anybody.
Nope.
But then eventually he goes and he looks for his daughter. And we find out that Cherry got the role of a lead in a detective show. Mm-hmm. Which sounded cool. I'd actually like to watch that show in real life. And then a lot of things seemed like they were going a certain way, and this is that episode where we got swerved. And a swerve is a term used in wrestling. You can actually watch one of their shows is called Swerved for the WWE. But a swerve is when you trick the audience into thinking one thing is going to happen, and then another thing happens. So in this case, the swerve was Sam's not going to show up on time. He eventually showed up and was there. Another swerve was that Debbie was not going to wrestle. She's there with her husband just to watch, drinking her tequila, which she always drinks. And we were going to have to change the ending and all this stuff. We got the big payoff of everybody getting their matches and them going really well, although Beirut, as you mentioned, had that scene.
Did not go so well because this was during that whole... there was a hostage situation, and so she is...
in real life. In the show.
And in real life in the show, and also in actual real life. And so she's doing her character, which is a Middle Eastern terrorist because of racism. And so there is a bunch of very unhappy dudes in the audience who spit on her and also throw stuff at her. And one of them ends up hitting Rhonda in the head. And so she's kind of bleeding. So that didn't quite go well.
And it was just another episode of this show doing that thing where it says, hey, look at this thing. We're not going to do anything with it, though. So they did that with the welfare queen. They did it with, a bunch of the miscarriage. And they did it with, look, this racism has consequences. And then they kind of just didn't do anything about it. In season 2, will Beirut eventually quit because it's doing more harm than good? I guess those are questions that might get addressed, or with this very realistic style might never get addressed. But I did like that the consequence hurt somebody else.
Yes.
I like that they did that.
Yeah.
Because it was Rhonda Britannica who got hit by the beer bottle, the beer can that was thrown at Beirut. That was pretty significant.
Who didn't want to do that gimmick anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
The one thing that was kind of weird to me, Cherry got that role, but seemed to be struggling with whether or not to accept it because she'd have to give up Glow. Are you fucking kidding me?
You get that TV money. You get that weekly syndicated
normally,
drama money.
I feel like normally when this sort of thing happens in a show, you're like, oh, this is a hard decision. What are they going to do? This is not... None of the people I've talked to feel like this is a hard decision.
No, you don't owe them anything.
Nobody wants her to stay with Glow. They don't appreciate you. You're not the star. They're iffy.
They said they're going to pay you twice as much. We never found out if they actually did.
Right. And then to top it all off, you're going to be a star, a black woman, star of your own show? How is this a question?
Yeah, I don't... How?
So anyway, the final swerve that happened was, at the very end, there's this different match, and Zoya, the Destroyer, wins, defeats everybody, and then Liberty Bell stands up from the crowd and is like, I'm gonna stand up for America.
I'm a proud mother.
Proud American mother.
And I like freedom.
It was great.
It was really good, yeah.
So good. They had the match. She finally did the move just like they practiced. She got on the top rope.
Yes, not just the second.
Not the second.
The
Top
top.
rope. Huge payoff. Wonderful. And then this show does what the fuck it does best. Sam swerves us again, and Welfare Queen wins it back for reasons that make total sense.
Mm-hmm.
The money is in the chase.
As the title of the episode is also. Money's in the chase. So, yeah, so it ends basically with them dancing in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And
Glow, that's the something else, and I don't know the words.
And so then the credits kind of roll, and you see this inset of Sam basically putting the final edit on the episode, which Bash then has to like run down the hallway to get put in.
Yeah.
So it could actually air.
A long
because they had takes.
1980s movie rush through the hallway sequence.
And then we then see the ladies at the motel all grouped together to watch the episode, and then it ends.
Yep. So the series as a whole, like I said, I like the last 4 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that once you added the wrestling element in, it was good. But for me, not what I wanted out of the show. But I do want to see a season 2. And I want that season 2 to be about making a weekly wrestling show. I want to see wrestling in at least one match every episode.
And you can very easily juxtapose the drama of the actual like day-to-day life stuff with putting the show on. It's very easy. A lot of other shows have done it before. So you can't. It doesn't have to be so just separated and segmented out like that.
I think other athletic shows have done that, like with football or something like that. So that's what we both like to see.
Yeah.
And any other final thoughts that we want to share?
I objectively it is a very well-made show. Subjectively, I would have liked it to be a little bit different. So I do recommend you taking a look at it because everybody likes different stuff. So I definitely want to see other people see it and see what their thoughts are. And for sure want a second season. I think that if we can get even more shows that have women athletes in the center of them, that'd be really dope because this is again a world that we don't get to see into very much, and we don't have dramas or comedies or anything really based around them. So, yeah.
I mean, like high level, I would love if this inspired people to make a Glow cartoon where they're superheroes. Can you imagine? That would be just the best thing ever. So like Tamara said, the show wasn't to my taste, doesn't mean it won't be to yours. If you're a real hardcore wrestling fan, you should just know this show is not really about wrestling. Wrestling is kind of a set dressing of a story of some quirky characters.
It's their gimmick, if you will. If
you love wrestling, please go watch the Glow documentary. It'll make you cry. It's so interesting and intriguing to hear what they had to go through. And, if you can find them, go watch some old episodes of Glow. They're pretty interesting. They weren't like... even the quickness of the moves in the show wasn't really accurate to the time. You have to remember the time in which this took place, the fact that these women weren't originally trained wrestlers, but you will still be very impressed with what they were able to do with all of that. I love seeing that this has inspired so many people, and again, if not a cartoon, I hope we could see a Glow revival or people having more interest in WoW Women of Wrestling, because that would be awesome. Because you guys should check out Santi, because she's amazing. She's so strong, and she's good, but she's not like Bailey good, where you're like, oh, eventually you're like, oh my god, Bailey, I get it. She's good like, nah, I got a headband. It's a different type of good. Anyway, where can people find you?
You can find me on the Twitters and the Instagrams at Misfits Tamara.
You can find me everywhere as Sarah the Rebel, and you can find this show on Twitter at Women Wrestling F. You can find us on Instagram, but I don't update it because I don't have the password. If you know how to hack Instagram, please let me know because we need to hack that eventually. And please go check out the Fans Podcast. Thank you for hosting us and sponsoring this show. You guys are awesome.